get ready for another exciting episode of We're Just Ken, where comedy meets life.
Ben, Hector's made me self-conscious about He's made me self-conscious because the intro song is so long that I think he wants me to like do a dance or something, but it's just us, Hector, so quit your complaining.
Yeah, you're pretty stoic, but I feel like one of us needs to be doing something. So, I'm just moving, grooving.
Have you ever seen that meme of like the different kinds of hand gestures in church during the worship? Like it's like the field goal kick or whatever, but
it's like you're, I don't know if you watch College Game Day, but you're Nick Saban and I'm Pat McAfee. Have you seen when they go to like commercial and Pat's just over there just vibing and, Nick is just looking at Pat, looking back, looking at his notes, looking at Pat, and Pat's just good stuff.
My dirty secret, I feel like Andy on The Office, when he says there are things that guys are supposed to like, but they don't, and he says like Mad Men or football. That's how I feel about the NFL. I mean, not the NFL, college football. I'm supposed to like it, but I literally cannot watch a full game. I just do not care.
Man, I'm kind of glad I'm not big into college football because I'm already stressed on Sundays thanks to the Dallas Cowboys. And it's just all the fun of being a fan of that team. I couldn't imagine being that like invested in a college team to care about that much too. I know this is like first world problems that we're worried about the anxiety that our sporting teams give us. But yeah, it's fun. I used to work with a guy that went to A&M, and he lived and died by Texas A&M football. Shout out Harrison, which is funny because he mostly died. I mean, A&M football is terrible, and he would come in. He would, before the season started, he'd write his thoughts on the games. He would literally do like a write-up for every single game and go through all 12 games, and he'd come into my office like, I got A&M going 10-2. Here's my reasonings. Like I would care enough to read them, and he'd spend all his time on the message boards. It's like, man, I just can't imagine doing that.
Kristen, her go-to joke, because I'm always listening to the ticket, especially on game day, I want to like, they're predicting the scores and all those sorts of things. And she's like, if they just waited till the game was played, then they would have something to talk about. So she doesn't get why Monday through Saturday is all build up about what might happen. She's like, they could just wait until the game and then they could talk about what did happen. I said, no, we gotta get ready for it. We want to talk about it.
I feel like Kristen's a little too close to the vest. Like she's too spot on with that take. She needs to reel that back a little bit, and she just tear down the facade that is like men in sports in general.
Well, you are at home, Ben. We don't have a guest today, by the way. It's just surprisingly, I don't know if you looked at the stats. We had a lot of views on that one we did a couple of weeks ago with just me and you, which surprised me. But for what that's worth, maybe folks are interested in you and I chatting occasionally. So it's been chaotic. Ben and I have both had busy weeks, and maybe Ben can talk about why he's been busy. But all that to say, it's just us today. And Ben, tell us why you're at home.
I got canned. No, I'm kidding. So I looked for when we moved up to the area where we're living now. I tried to get back into banking on the commercial side. There was no jobs. There was nothing of interest. There was a couple things out there, and I just had trouble finding stuff. Took the position at the hospital. Realized very early on that it was not for me.
Because they had you doing like surgeries and stuff like on day one, didn't they?
Yeah. They had me doing some scopes, nothing like major, just scoping out some knees, doing some post-op, making sure, post-op checks.
Well, didn't they fire you because even in surgery, you refused to wear a mask?
Yeah. I said no mask. Only threw up twice on the patient. Don't know what the big deal is. No, I was doing financial analysis, which I don't know if my boss will see this. Previous boss, he was great. It was pretty much data analysis, which I'm not into data analytics. the programs. I used about 10 programs, and we covered about 10 hospitals. So yeah, it was interesting. And honestly, I really wasn't looking for anything at the time. You know, I'm one of those that dive, like I'm going to dive headfirst in.
Very few
Even if
pros.
very RIP, RIP to Charlie Hustle. But yeah, no, I dive headfirst in. I got these certifications, and it's what I do with everything. But I just never, I don't know, it just never really was. The stress that everybody was under, the CFO at the hospital that I worked at, even though I covered like 10 hospitals, the CFO that was there would literally work every weekend. And he would be up there 7-8 hours on Saturdays and Sundays. And he's like, yeah, that's where I get stuff done, you know. And it's like, it was fun to him. And I was like, I'd never want to do that. I don't mind working, you know, I don't mind working over 40 hours. Like the 8 to 5 thing is a myth anyways. But man, this guy would work from like 6 to 10 every day, come up on the weekends. And it just, I don't know. Then that was my future if I would have stayed on that track. That going into the CFO, you know, I was already with talks with my regional CFO about kind of steps into that. And there's a couple hospitals that were going to have smaller like CFO positions available. And I don't know if I would have got those, but I definitely would have had like an opportunity. I just didn't want it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm just sitting minding my own business, and this bank calls me from here in Denison Sherman area and says, hey, we know we heard great things about you. We heard that you were looking for a commercial position. Would you mind coming to interview? I was like, yes. And this was 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago from today. And yeah, so I talked to him on that Wednesday, interviewed on Friday, and then met the chief lending officer on Monday. And yeah, got offered the position. I took it. Put in my 2 weeks. They told me they'll pay me to the 18th, but to go ahead and turn in my laptop.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I've done the last 2 weeks. I've done nothing. It's felt great.
So you were headhunted.
I was headhunted. My golf game is top notch. I've played the last like 3 or 4 times last week. It's been great. Going again today. I got a meeting at school for my son, and then going to play golf again. So yeah, get back into the banking lifestyle, Colin.
Mm-hmm. Are you still hitting?
Everybody says is golf.
Are you still hitting a breakfast ball?
No, I don't really need one, Colin. I don't need one.
I don't either, man. I've been hitting like a knockdown 6 lately, and it's been working for me.
Is it windy out there? Is that why you're knocking it down?
Yeah, I may need to get my clubs re-gripped, so I'm going to talk to the pros over at the club and see if they can do anything for me.
Oh, multiple pros.
Yeah, all the pros. Sometimes they do fittings for the members, so I may go in. Dude, that's awesome. I was going to ask you maybe a dumb question. So hospital financial structures, are they considered, don't laugh at me, are they considered nonprofit? I know they are making money, but it's not, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, not a dumb question. So you actually have both. You have nonprofit and you have for-profit. So I was part of Universal Health System, which is a massive publicly traded company. They have, they have George Washington Hospital in DC, which is where, the president usually goes if something happens. But yeah, they're a massive corporation, publicly traded, which, if I can be honest, that's kind of where a lot of my rub was that this hospital here, revenue wise, $750-800 million. And we were cutting expense. It was always about the bottom line. And I get it. I'm a capitalist. I understand that. I love the free market. However, whenever you see like nonprofit hospitals, it's not always about the bottom line. Like it's one, because there really is no bottom line. I mean, yeah, they'll make more than they dish out every year, and their balance will grow. But yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was a very much a for-profit hospital system I was a part of.
When it comes to hospitals, so they have a bunch of full-time staff, but my experiences with the girls, it seems like a lot of their specialists and doctors maybe have their own practice, but then the OB will come in and deliver the baby. Like, do the doctors sort of roam in and out?
Yeah, that's that was another thing. So technically, I do think there are some doctors that are employed by the hospital, but pretty much they're, man, I don't know how much you want to get into the weeds. Shout out Cody of this. But yeah, so the doctors are all not hot. They're not like salaried hospital employees. They're basically contracted. Usually they're part of a big group. Like, it's funny. The hospital here. Imagine what you think of like the super PACs in politics. Like the candidates are not supposed to talk to the PACs, and the PACs are not supposed to talk to the candidates. But you know what happens? Literally here, the Independent Physician Network. I think that's what it's called. IPN, maybe IPM. I can't remember what it was, but it was Independent Physician. Their coordinator office 2 doors down from the CEO of the hospital. So it was this group of independent doctors, but their boss literally office 2 doors down from the CEO. So yeah, you have primarily like doctors that aren't hospital employees, but they're pretty much, it's like an understanding that they go to them. And there are some that work multiple hospitals if they have like a truly independent practice. But most of the time it's all going to be non-salaried doctors that just have privileges and are expected to bring their patients to whatever hospital has their, contract or whatever. It's all confusing as all get out, if I can be honest with you.
I would always joke with Kristen, one of my favorite shows is Scrubs. Did you ever watch that back in the day?
Yeah, some.
And if you watched all 9 seasons, you're under the impression that like there's only one floor of the hospital with a few rooms, and everyone that comes in the hospital, like the doctors work there full time, and all the doctors and surgeons are on the same floor. I was like, there's no way that's how a hospital operates.
Yeah, it's funny. The Texoma Medical Center, which is where I officed, it was such a weird setup to me the way they built that, and it's relatively new, because you had certain like Texoma Care, which is part of the hospital, like it's where kind of the specialist office. It's like you have like hospitalists, which I don't even know what those are, and you have like certain specialties that didn't have offices there, like emergency medicine. There's probably not a reason to have an office for emergency medicine, because you're not necessarily like seeing patients day to day. Like a cardiologist, they'll have patients that get their heart checked every so often, but then he's there if he needs to go to like the cath lab or whatever. And it was just a weird setup because you had all these specialists over there that aren't attached to the hospital, but are attached to the hospital. Literally the building is attached, but they're not a part of the hospital. But they also have like, the way they was set up, there was only like specialties on every floor, but then they weren't because like they always overflowed. And so I was like, well, what's the point of having like designated areas that they never are on that certain floor? It was, I don't know if every hospital is like that, but it was definitely a strange setup in my opinion here.
It all sounds, I mean, anyone who's ever dealt with insurance, and especially once you start having kids and stuff, it's all very, very complex, obviously. So I do my part to alleviate the system by not going to the doctor almost ever. And so that's one less person that is a burden to the system,
That's good. That's really good. It is funny that I don't know how much I want to get into this, but it was funny that we had monthly, honestly, almost like bi-monthly meetings or bi-weekly. I still don't know how those are the same.
It's a confusing term.
And it was like, okay, let's look at your payer mix. So then you'd look at all the patients, you'd look at like their average length of stay and how that was like compared to what they were supposed to be. So every single diagnosis had an expected length of stay. Basically Medicare tracks it all on how they pay. And it was funny, the CFOs are basically like reporting every month. Here is obviously the amount of visits, the expected length of stay. And there's only so many levers you could pull as a CFO to, well, it really was like, yeah, there's basically one lever you could pull, and it was like wages. So make sure you're not paying overtime. And so like it was every month, it was the same thing. Okay, how many visits have we had? Okay, so we're under, so we should have less wages this month. And it's like, correct. Okay, Good talk. Let's get going. All right, how can we? Because if you only have so many, if you only have a certain amount of, like doctors, if you only have so many specialties there, you're not going to get more patients in there. Then it's not like if you only have one cardiologist, it's not like your heart surgeries or heart exams are going to go up month to month, vastly, because you only have one that can work. And so it is interesting because it's long-term planning, but you're very much focused on the short term and every month to month. But it's like long-term. Okay, here's what we need. Okay, right now, cut salaries, cut wages, cut physician expense, cut supplies. But long-term, let's get more doctors in. As we're cutting all these other doctors' expenses and trying to cut back on like what we're paying them. And it just seemed kind of counterintuitive to me. But I mean, I feel like that's what you get for a for-profit hospital.
Yeah, the system is a mess. I don't envy folks who have chronic conditions and are in and out of doctor's visits and insurance. And I've kind of watched my mom go through that with some siblings and my dad her whole life. And it's time consuming and it's expensive. And I don't know how to fix it or anything like that, but it definitely seems messy. And I don't know, man.
It's not fun. And I love that there's hospitals there and there are people willing to, the burden that is healthcare. I'm glad there are people that do it. And obviously you need financial, the financial side as well. It just wasn't for me.
So this new job will be very similar to what you were doing back in Greenville?
Yeah, it's exactly. I'll be a commercial relationship manager. I'll be going after commercial loans, commercial deposits, working on, I'm going to be calling my former, customers, trying to move a lot of them over.
You know what you should do? Get a gift basket.
I should.
If it had
some turtles, some chocolate turtles, and
yeah, I was going to say if it has the chocolate turtles.
See, I thought we would go caroling in their neighborhood in the middle of the summer. Summer celebration or whatever. Office reference if people are not following along.
Creed takes all the toner out of the printer and colors his hair because he thinks they're going to downsize all the elderly.
What did he say? I'm 39. Well, in May I'll be 39.
So you will start soon?
I'll start on Monday.
Will you move the Troy Aikman poster from the old office to the new office?
I've taken them down. I don't know. It's a brand new building and nobody really had anything on the walls. And so I don't know if I can go in there and just start putting stuff up, which I use. I've moved so much now, offices in the last 5-6 years. I guess I could just, keep using those command strips, which are a godsend. But the last one I used in the hospital, it definitely tore paint off the wall. So I don't know. I'm really worried I'm going to get a bill for just an exorbitant amount of money because that's what hospitals do.
Man, I spend a lot of time in my office. And so when I first got the job, I spent a lot of time. I mean, I haven't painted the walls or whatever, but brought in some bookshelves and stuff. I can't work in a sterile environment. And so I don't know. I need to be surrounded.
You painted the walls?
Yeah.
They gave you that authority?
I didn't ask. I just did it.
Oh, my bad. Rebel.
I mean, nobody would have ever known. But yeah, I got. Did
you go was it white to an eggshell white?
Ironically, yes. But I have Kristen's artwork over here. I got a little candy section over there, Ben. Can you see that?
Yeah, I see the candy bowl.
So it's over here. I call this my cafe.
Right. Dude, you got a microwave and I see some water.
I got
a mini fridge. What's the bottom left? Oh, is that 2 mini fridges? Or no, that's a filing cabinet on the right.
But I'm not. Here's the secret. I'm not filing anything. It's snacks.
Oh, that's genius.
I know. So if there was some sort of apocalypse, I would have all the books and water and snacks I need for at least a couple of weeks.
Have you seen the guy, way off topic, the guy that smokes brisket and does barbecue out of a filing cabinet?
No.
It's so genius. I don't know how healthy it is because obviously there's not exactly food grade metal, but he puts all the food. He just got holes in the drawers, and his bottom shelf or bottom drawer is his wood burning, his smoke, and then at the top is where he puts the meat.
I might think about that for my office.
But
Well,
anyways, yeah, man. Well, that's a cool office. I've been fortunate with some good offices. The one in the hospital was not great. It did not have an outside window, and I was stuck in there for long periods of time. And I just think that should be illegal. I think we should make that a law that no office can be without a window. It doesn't even have to be outside. Just make it somewhere, put it to the hallway. I don't care, but that's just my opinion.
maybe a picture of a window.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard, have you seen that thing in Dallas called the Cosm?
Mm-mm.
It's like this sphere light where you can go watch like football games and it's like you're there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it looks amazing. It's actually in the Colony, which everything's going to the Colony, as you know. But it was funny. I was listening to a guy talk about it. He said he was watching it here. Phone keeps ringing. Elgin, Illinois. You know where that is?
No.
That not close to you? Anyways, he said he was watching. It was so lifelike. He was watching like a game on the West Coast. He stepped out, and it was like 10 o'clock. And well, I guess it would have been dark there. Maybe it was before that. Maybe he stepped out like 7, 8 o'clock, and it was dark. And he was like so thrown off because it seemed like he was watching a game in the daylight. And he stepped outside, and it was just dark, and it threw him off. But yeah, we should go to that.
So it's like some kind of what do they call that with the goggles and all that, like virtual reality kind of setup, or no?
No. It's like it's such high quality camera. It's like you're there. And I guess, man, I don't even know how they do it. I think they've got their own cameras, so it's not like game feed. I'm sure some of it's game feed, but some of it, when they like pan down to the, I'm sure they have their own special 4K cameras, or maybe even better than that, to the sideline. It's like you're there. I mean, it's literally you're there. It's so realistic looking. In fact, the first time I saw a video of it, I think it was on Twitter, that I thought it was real. I was like, man, that's so cool. Like this guy, I was like, how's this so clear? It just threw me off. And then come to find out it was a screen. It honestly looked better than like in person viewing. But yeah, I don't know how exactly they do it. I'm sure they have because of the way it's set up. It's like it's like you have to buy tickets to it. They probably have to have some type of rights, and they get their own cameras because they only show 1 or 2 games like on that screen. They apparently have like a back area where it has like a lot of screens, but I don't know. Seems interesting to me.
So going back to your interview, what's your interview move? Because I've always had a few moves that, I try to put like a nice little touch to separate myself from the pack. So you got a special tie or anything?
No, I did look sharp. It was funny. The bank that I'm going to is headquartered. It's called Legend Bank. It's headquartered out of Bowie, Texas. Don't know if you've ever been to Bowie, Colin. I don't know if there's really a reason for you to go to Bowie. So Bowie is kind of on the way from where I live now to my hometown in Graham. It's kind of out of the way unless you're going through it. Maybe if y'all went skiing, you might have went through Bowie, like 287. Probably not. But anyways, yeah, it's very, very much a like laid back vibe. And I was wore a nice sport coat the first time because I knew that they were kind of laid back, and the guy was in a polo and jeans. And then on Monday, we met with the chief lending officer. I wore a nice suit. I had a great tie and shirt combo, kind of a maroon. And he was literally in a fishing shirt tucked into his jeans. And I was like, this is my place. Like I'm not going to wear that, but it's nice to know that's an option, Did
you go with the gator skin boots, or what are we rocking down there?
I was actually wearing boots. I was wearing my boots with the riding crop. So it's like I'm taller, or a riding heel, I think is what they call it. And so I looked like I was 6'2", 6'3", imposing. So
my move was always, at least when I was in K-12, my move was to print out the resume on like cardstock. And so you could hand it to people if you were in like a sort of conference situation. So it's just a nice, classy, like they feel the weight of that. It's very Christian Bale and American Psycho, when they feel the weight of that resume, they think we need to hire this guy.
I can't tell you, especially coming out of college, how much I was stressed on my resume, because you kind of see, if you go and do online digging and try to find like what hiring managers are looking for, it's like you get a different answer every time.
Yeah.
And so it's like, eliminate every job that, wasn't part of your career. It's like, well, starting out of college, that would be literally every job, that I had up to that point. It's like, okay, be concise, but also be detailed in like what you did. Put your references on there, but don't put your references on there. Just put references as needed. Like put your education and kind of what you like clubs you're putting in. They don't care about the clubs you put in.
Dude,
So I think I've got a nice little resume right now.
The academic job market, you almost never know what exactly they want. You know what the position's called, and they want some sort of historian, but they might want somebody with a research focus or a teaching focus or experience in K-12 or yada, 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 but they don't list all that. So then it's a guessing game from the person applying in terms of like, what should I emphasize? And it's not even just a resume. They call it a CV, but oftentimes those are 14, 15 pages. It's everything you've ever done in higher ed. So it's a big guessing game. Maybe that's employers all around. I don't know why they don't just come out and say in a few sentences, this is exactly what we're looking for. And if this is not you, don't apply. Like, wouldn't that save everyone time?
I think it would. And like put your salaries, put pay on there.
Well, but I think what they do is, and I can't quite blame them as a good capitalist myself, is that if they can pay somebody less and that person is willing to work there, I can understand that. But I think
put a range. Like put a range. I don't understand why putting a range.
Yeah, but not even just academia, I think all jobs, what they want to do is, oftentimes you've probably done this where you fill out an application and they want to know what your current salary is, so that if that's way below what they would have paid somebody else and they offer you $5,000 more than you were making, that's at least they can say we're offering you more, even if that's $20,000 less than they were willing to pay. And so
I understand why they do it. I just think, and maybe it's not that big a deal, because like I've never really applied for anything that the pay was like that off, but you hear stories of them not putting a pay and then they offer $20,000 less, but like the benefits are better, so to speak. And it's just, well, you're wasting time, in my opinion. But what was gonna say? So I got a call from, this was back when I was in my early job searching about a year and a half ago, right when I left the Farm Credit. And it was from a recruiter for an SBA lending, which I don't know if you know, familiar with SBA, Small Business Administration. They basically, you focus on kind of non-bankable customers. It's basically to encourage lending to small businesses that wouldn't, get lending elsewhere. It's guaranteed by the Small Business Administration and whatnot. Anyways, I got called by the recruiter that this company had hired out, and they're like, "Oh, you're perfect for the position. Like, you got this, and this." I was like, "Great." Well, then that recruiter got let go or something. I couldn't get in contact with them, so I just contacted the bank and I called them. Man, I was relentless. I looked them up on LinkedIn. Like, I felt like this is what a good lender will do when they go. Like, a good salesperson will figure out a way to get in contact. So I thought like I was doing a favor. And so I'd look them up on LinkedIn. I didn't go as far as their Facebook, but like I found their emails on like some site, or maybe I guessed what their emails were based on another person's email at that company. And so like I just started peppering them with things. And then I got a phone call from them, and they're literally the first thing is please quit emailing me. I was like, okay. Oh, and I found their phone call and I found their phone number. So I think I was calling and leaving voicemails. Not like annoyingly. It was like maybe once or twice a week. Like, it was about for a month. And like, well, this lady said I was perfect for the position and whatnot. And basically she said, yeah, that's an evergreen position. Like, we always have a position open just in case somebody with a massive SBA portfolio wants to come over here. Then why didn't you put it on there? Like, why not respond to my email a month ago or call me? It's not like I was wasting a ton of time, but it was kind of annoying. I just felt like, certain people are taking advantage. But I do have one thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
In my line of work, because I'll be on Reddit, and I've never been part of a hiring committee where I was actually in charge of poring over resumes, but people who have been on hiring committees will talk about they can't disclose a lot of information because it's basically legally protected by HR. And so people might be on the hook for 5 or 6 months just waiting to hear an answer, like well into the summer to start in August. And come to find out, they just needed a couple of signatures to be able to tell all the other applicants that the position was filled. But until they get that signature, they want to keep people at least viable in case it's a fallback option. Yeah. It's just a tough, like they want the people in charge, they want to be able to be more transparent, but HR is telling them, don't tell them that this is filled, even though for all intents and purposes it is.
I will say I've seen other companies just here recently, they'll put like a general job posting, or where you can go apply that you're looking. And so like if it's for a commercial lending position and you have commercial lending experience, you can go put it in there, even though they know you know there's not a position there, but you're just looking. And if one came available, they'd do like a phone call. And I felt like that was kind of a nice touch when I would see that. Not very often, but anyways, we'll call it. I've got to run. I'm sorry. I got a meeting this morning with my son's teacher. So hopefully that goes well. Kind of scared, but it's not a bad meeting, but it's just a general meeting. So yeah. Sorry, I got to leave early. We were supposed to have a guest and he bailed, he just too busy apparently on a job site or something. I don't know.
Well, and I had somebody else, but he's up campaigning up in the Midwest right now. So I'm not going to say any names, but it would have been a huge guess.
I will say we should meet. I don't know when the next time we'll talk, but I need to tell you about the debate that I watched last night between Ted Cruz and Colin Arroyo for the Texas Senate. That they posted on YouTube. It couldn't even make like a local channel. It literally was posted on YouTube and like the local ABC affiliates like special app they have, WFAA Plus.
Well, according to the ads that I see, apparently the biggest issue in Texas right now is like girls field hockey. So
yeah, that's what they don't want. They don't want. Well, I won't get into it. Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah. I was just implying what the real issue was.
I know.
Okay, well, if you have to hop off, I can just read from my dissertation for the next 30 or 45 minutes.
I think they'd love that. I think they would love that.
Maybe just the intro in chapter 1.
Yeah.
Benjamin, good talking. Congrats on the job. We will try to get some guests going. For the folks at home, we're not getting rich off of this, so it is a lot of work to line up guests. And I told Ben, if our friends loved us, they would be at the ready for, hey, can you hop on in the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, that's their fault. That's a them problem. That's not an us problem.
All right, I'll see you, buddy. Gotta go.